Red Script Studio presents The Trauma That Binds and Overcoming the Front Lines, a segment of Living Vicariously. Caution: the Trauma That Binds series contains mature subject matter that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, Podcast Nation, and welcome back to the Trauma That Binds series, Part 3, Overcoming the Front Lines. Today, we have the honor and privilege of hosting war veteran Tim Palmer, survivor of war trauma, PTSD, and domestic violence. Tim is now on a journey of personal development, healing, and helping others heal by sharing his experiences. Just one moment, and we'll get him on the line. Hello, Tim.
Tim, how are you, sir?
Not bad. Yourself, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. I've got no complaints. Lamborghini at Starbucks.
Perfect. Glad to hear it. Yeah, you told me that you're doing a Lambo event today, right?
Yeah, my girlfriend, she's got a real empire she's built, and I'm helping her out. And they're doing a top sales event down here at the Lamborghini in Naples. What better way to show up and to bring her than to bring her in a Lamborghini Urus?
No doubt, no doubt. That's perfect. Why don't we just kind of get into it there, Tim? Actually, why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit to the audience? What brought you to me? What do you think you helped to share your experiences here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to help somebody. I hope this finds somebody who may need it. When I was in a dark hour, I needed the podcast. I needed the YouTube. I think it's great therapy. I think it's the future of education. But a little bit about me is born and raised in Western New York, Niagara Falls area. Had a real troubled youth, man. Growing up in late 90s, early 2000s. You know how it was. I was in and out of drugs. A bad environment. At 16 years old, typical story of me, Timmy P. Always got to do everything extreme. 15, 16 years old. I forget the exact age, but took a protein powder off the counter in my mom and dad's house and then screamed and cussed down and said, "I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm out of here." And, now I'm 38 years old, and I realized that might not have best at 16 years old to do, but I don't know that I'd change it for anything either. It made me into the person that I am. And I look back at it and realize I've a reason, and I think I've got a lot more still to do. After the troubled youth, of course, I joined the military. I was down on my luck. For a few strikes, I was in and out of trouble with the law up there in Western New York. And fortunately, the judge, who enough, Tim, was a Vietnam veteran. My father spared no expense, luckily, for my attorney. And it gave me the second chance I needed in life, because that put me in front of a man I highly look up to, and who was my first non-commissioned officer and lead of me, who was David Keener, who I met through the Army, who showed me what potential a military-age man can have. And I just grabbed a hold of those coattails and rode that to victory, man. And here I find myself now, sitting in a daggone Lamborghini Urus doing an interview with you. I've got zero complaints in life, and I've made a lot of big mistakes, and I just want my information out there so it can get across to somebody who doesn't have to make the same mistakes.
No, that's perfect, and that's a great message, Tim, and I appreciate that, because exactly, we all make mistakes, and sometimes we make the same mistakes. And with your situation, unfortunately, it did lead to either jail or the Army, and that's kind of what you told me, right? So what kind of trouble at Fort Hood did you get into that led to that situation?
Oh, geez, it's funny you asked there about that Fort Hood trouble, and Mr. Keener can attest to this one. My memory isn't the best. I've been blown up. I've been, I've had a lot of concussions as a kid with hockey, but I pieced things together with the beautiful memory that I have right now. And from my recollection, I had a lovely event that took place, and I inappropriately did some things to a kid that I probably shouldn't have done, but he gave me a credit card to go get him booze. And long story short, he wasn't 21, and I found myself in some sticky stuff and in some trouble. And I had just joined the military, man. I was in here on my last strike. A Vietnam judge let me join, and boy, my fingernails were off. I was in trouble. And that's when Mr. Keener stepped into my life and straightened me right out, because I'm kind of glad that trouble happened right away. He gave me some money. I went to a PX to get some booze for him. Lo and behold, I came back and his debit card didn't work. So I was a little frustrated that he sent me up there and he didn't have any money. And then I found out he wasn't even 21. So insult to injury, I shouldn't have did what I did to him, but I was a young punk back then, so to say, and I didn't know any better. So I did what I did, got in a little bit of trouble, and I faced it head on. I thought my life was over, honestly, Tim. I thought I was going back to face that same Vietnam judge, and I thought I was done. I thought I was fried, man. And Sergeant First Class Keener brought me in with First Sergeant Ronenberg over there at Fort Hood, and both of them gentlemen fortunately gave me my third and final chance that I needed to recover in life. And I did some time, got an Article 15. I don't know if you're familiar with that with the Army, but basically you're whacking large stones into little stones while you're sitting on the hot pavement, sweating your ace off. You know how that is. Basically, you're just doing anything and everything you can on extra duty to, serve your punishment, so to say.
So it's basically an atonement type of punishment.
Yeah, and Article 15 is the military's Uniform Code of Military Justice to basically give you a slap on the wrist. Like you're getting in trouble and you're going outside and you get into a scuffle and a fight. And instead of going to jail and getting wrapped up and getting brought down to the police station, the military has their own judicial system who kind of handles things in a documentative way, so to say. But yeah, you get in trouble. You lose pay still. You lose rank. You lose money. And boy, once they started affecting that pocketbook, and my money wasn't the same, I think that's what kind of hit home for me. And I realized I had to see the light and fit into the civilian and military population and be a good boy to see the finish line. Otherwise, I was going to the big house, man.
Well, like you said, you faced it head on. You did your time, and you went through it. And from what you told me, you excelled and eventually became a specialist marksman, right?
Absolutely, man. I never really fired guns before the military, and I found myself whacking paint cans at 1,000 meters once the military turned me into a heck of a shooter. And it was a fun job, best job I ever had, I'll tell you what. And it's a young man's game. If I could still do it now at 38 and in good shape, I'd still love to do it. But just physically, you know how it is. The body just can't take it.
No, exactly. Especially over that time period, the body just wears down, especially that physically demanding job. Would you ever consider doing reserves or just kind of just keep with the VA or?
Yeah, absolutely. I transitioned out of active duty and went into the reserves, and that's where I finished up and retired out of, because once I was done with active duty, they had to work me out some way, and the reserves was the way to do it. So I finalized my retirement over in a little unit in St. Petersburg, 641st Regional Support Group. Shout out to you guys. It was an awesome time. I spent some time at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, but the majority of my military time was spent on Fort Hood, Texas, the great place. Basically, it's a big transition post for anybody who could chew bubble gum and walk and shoot. Basically, you're going to go to Fort Hood, and it's a transition post. You're going there for one reason: to deploy in support of the nation, most likely. At least that's how I did it as a combat guy.
Well, I guess everybody has to start somewhere, right? They always have that staging ground for everybody to go to.
Absolutely.
Now, was it Iraq or Afghanistan that you were in?
Iraq. I was in Iraq. Total time over there was, I think, just under 16 months. I did an 8 to 7 month stint, and then it was my turn. My card got pulled to go home for a mid-tour, they called it, a little break. And actually, funny enough, our convoy onto the main post for me to go out and catch a plane home, we were the trail vehicle, and we got blown up. We had enemy contact, and we rolled over an IED, improvised explosive device, and I had to go and do a promotion ceremony back at a main combat outpost. Once that was, safe and secure, EOD, blew up the ordnance and such. They had to come out. Actually, I want to go into depth with that story too, because that story has a lot of significance about, the light bulb going off in my life. When we were headed down from combat outpost Top Apache, which was in middle Iraq. And again, this is 7, 8, 9 months into my deployment. So at this point, I think I'm a seasoned veteran in special forces operation, and nobody can hurt me, right?
Right.
So we got a little lackadaisical on the way back into this post, and complacency, you know how it is. Complacency kills. And fortunately, we all walked away. We probably should. And when EOD got out there and they looked at that bomb, he came over the net, and those words still resonate tremendously with me, and they hit me to my core when I even replay them. He came over the net and he said, "You guys better count your lucky stars." And I don't know who the guy was. I'd love to run into him sometime, have a handshake and a beer. He was in Iraq around 07, 09. I'd love to freaking run into him. Maybe you'll hear this podcast sometime. But he came over the net and said, "You better count your lucky stars." And when they blew that bomb up, man, I felt it in my toes. I would have been pieces. There would have been nothing left, So we got lucky. It was a crush wire improvised explosive device, and fortunately, it just wasn't wired the right way, and they all didn't go off. If I'm not mistaken, it was 12 jugs, and I think only 4 or 5 ended up going off. So, long story short, we made it back to the combat outpost. I did a promotion ceremony, and the sergeant major looked at me and basically said, "Holy shit, you were just in an explosion. You were this, that, and the other thing. You're promoted. Have a good day. Get out there and keep doing your job." So I darted off, went home, missed the birth of my daughter by a few days, tried to fit into the civilian life and get back into things, but I was only back home for a good 18 days. And then poof, I was right back in the sandbox, sending bullets down range. So that's basically the active duty stint and fun stint in the Army, so to say. Everything after that was garrison life, coming home, and I'm a terrible garrison soldier, man. All I did was get in trouble. I was just antsy. I wanted to do something. I wanted to shoot, move, and communicate. I'm just not a good desk jockey, so to say.
Yeah, no, it definitely takes a certain kind of person just to be able to transition from out in the field to sit behind a desk. And from our conversations, I can tell you're definitely not one of them. You need to be out doing something.
Absolutely, man.
Now, you've told me some great stories, some great fun stories. I know with our conversations that we've had on email, there have been some very, very hard times while you were over in Iraq. Would you feel comfortable talking about them, or would you prefer to just leave it? It's absolutely up to you. I just know it can be very hard to relive that, especially from what you told me.
Yeah, basically what I want to comment on that, and hopefully we can change the way things are presented and approached, and that would be an ultimate goal. And hey, maybe Tim Douglas from Canada and Tim Palmer from Florida are the two that are the people that change this. But I'll tell you what, you wouldn't believe how many times I've had to relive my stories, Tim, and tell them to doctor after doctor. And you know how it is with trauma. Sometimes the best thing to do is to put that in a box and never open it up again. After you come to peace with it, and you've taken care of it, and you've gotten past that, the Army and the VA is infamous for slapping you back in the face with it, especially if you're going through any type of medical event or VA event and you're trying to get disability compensation out of it, or even just documented that it's a combat wound or injury. Those stories I've had to tell behind closed doors, and some I had to tell to doctors, and others I had to tell to psychiatrists. It's something that I don't necessarily like to relive again, but I will tell you this: I carry my buddies proudly with me every day, and they're here with me right now in the Lamborghini enjoying life. And I've found that the best way for me to cope with the stress is to forget about it and move on with my life, because I've got so much bigger and better to do.
Oh, and that's completely fair, but I will just say thank you for their service as well as yours, because I know it was a tremendous event that happened over there for you, and I'm just so full of emotion about that. But let's digress and move on and keep on trucking. So you said you did 16 months over there, and then you came home, and then you had to go back out again. When did you?
Yeah, I did an 8-month tour, and then I had to go back over there and finish up at Combat Outpost Apache with the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment. And it was a self-sustained unit. So we basically went in the middle of nowhere in the desert and built our own combat outpost and did a 16-month tour out there with about 3,800 to 4,800 soldiers at any given time. And we were spread out at different combat outposts. So went back home, saw the birth of the child, went back to Iraq. Then I came back to the States. They started to work me out of the Army, and then that's when I chose to do reserve status. So I transferred down to Florida. I did reserves for a few years down there, and then they transferred me out. They worked me out through the reserves fairly quickly. It was a smooth transition.
Glad it was a smooth transition for you there. But from our conversations, the transition home wasn't as great as you thought it was going to be due to some family issues. Now, again, if you're comfortable or whatnot, you had told me you had dealt with some abuse issues after coming home. Just for our other listeners that might be dealing with the same thing, do you mind sharing that experience, or is this again something that you would like to be left alone?
Oh no, absolutely. I want to share my experiences here for sure. You know, combat is one thing. The losing soldiers is tough. It's something that you don't necessarily want to relive again. I've walked over roadside bombs on MSR Tampa, and they didn't blow up. I've used my 9 lives, so to say, as a cat, and I don't know that if I were to go over there ever again, I don't know that I got any more lives left, you know. But what caused the main issues when I got home was a lack of self-accountability. You know, trying to mask that pain and the heartache. Trying to mask it every day with that sauce, that alcohol. I was a big drinker when I got back, and I tried to drown my sorrows in alcohol, and that was a huge mistake. You know, if anybody's listening to this, it's tough. I get it, but you got to put the sauce down. And that was one of the hardest things that I tussled with for a while, because it's so easy to get. You know, you can swing into 7-Eleven, grab what you want, slug it, pitch it out the window. Yeah, think of what you want of me. I'm guilty of it. You people probably listening are too. You know, it was a tough spot that I was in, and trying to mask that anger and aggression and you know, wanting my friends back, wanting my battle buddies back. That was a tough battle, and I masked it for years and years and years with alcohol. So it not only caused one bad divorce, but hey, it caused a second one, you know. And as I transitioned through my second marriage, I got remarried, and I had some stepkids, and I started to really tailor back drinking, and my eyes started to open up about how easy it was to cope with things when you weren't aggravated all the time, or hungover, or, you know, even just angry or a little bit out of shape. You know, once I centered myself and I kind of became what I like to say a self helpaholic, I focused on myself, and that was it. I transitioned the alcohol to self. That's it. And instead of becoming an alcoholic, I was a self-helpaholic. I couldn't do enough to help myself getting in that gym. I was proud every drink I didn't have. Every time I passed the 7-Eleven, I gave myself a pat on the back. And once I was able to combat that sauce situation, at least for me, that's when it was real easy to start coping with things and revisit things, you know, and actually put closure to some situations. So alcohol was a major factor for me that continued to spiral me downhill. Once I was able to control that, a lot in my life changed. Of course, physical fitness, getting my mindset right, and just digging in on YouTube. Of course, you know, I've got my own YouTube channel now. I try to put everything that I have in my head now that I know on the internet at this point, because maybe a 15-year-old needs it, a 16-year-old needs to see it, an 18-year-old needs to see it, a 21-year-old needs to see it. I wish I had that when I was that age. You know, I just didn't have that ability to get to that internet and have that time to digress and heal myself, so to say. So I'm a firm believer of YouTube. I think it saved me. I got a YouTube vacation, and I'm glad I stumbled upon it, because I don't have a good social relationship, Tim. You know, speaking with people, talking with people outside of the military was always hard. I don't feel like I fit in. I'm very antisocial and awkward. So once I became a self-helpaholic, man, and put that sauce down, that's what really changed my life for me.
Now, you said you've been sober for about 1.5 years now, right? When did you, what day did you put down the bottle?
Well, I don't know the exact date, and that's the thing. Is years ago I tried AA, you know, to try to salvage my first marriage, and boy, you know, when nobody wants help, nobody's going to be able to help nobody. But when you want help for yourself and you're actually ready to change, AA is a great avenue. But I went in there with a sour attitude, and it just wasn't for me. So, you know, AA it was tough. So I don't necessarily remember the date, to be honest with you. I want to say it was late 2022 for sure, maybe even mid 2022. And I had just gotten physically abused for the third time by my second spouse, and it happened in front of my kids. And at that point, I knew that I had to be mentally prepared for what was going to take place, and I needed to be there for my kids because things were about to go astray with my second chance and my second family that I kind of forced upon them. And putting the sauce down was a great idea because I was able to handle that appropriately, accordingly, and move on with my life and get out of that terrible physical abuse situation that I was in.
Yeah, no, and exactly. As soon as you put down the bottle, well, any type of vice or addiction, as soon as you're able to get that clear head and that clear mind, you're able to focus more. And it's very unfortunate that with the situation with your ex there, that you had domestic violence for the third time, and especially after coming home after Iraq and dealing with all that, it's just it's hard. And I can't say I know it's hard. You know it's hard, but you put the sauce down, you got your mind straight, you got it cleared. And now you're on the phone with me trying to advocate for others with the same trauma and hoping to help them as well. Now, like you said, you have your YouTube channel, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you also said you have a book on the way, was what you told me in an email. What you want to talk about that book?
Yes, sir. I'm so excited for that book. I basically got all of my life word vomited on about 250 pages, and it's called The Blueprint, specifically spelled without an E, just because I do everything extra special, BLUPRNT. And I'm hoping to have this out by the end of 2024. I'm prepared to send it into publishing and get things taken care of. I'm just making the final adjustments to a couple of end chapters right now. I've got, I believe, 12 chapters in the book, and it is exciting. There is some great information in there, some good gory details, and there's some names. So make sure when it comes out, you guys check it out.
Perfect. That's great. And I'm glad that you were able to get that all down, even though if you describe it as word vomit, that's just totally okay. Now, I did get you in contact with Clint Lawrence. Did you end up contacting him for this book as well, or is this just going to...
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect.
Yes,
awesome.
Sir, I did. Unfortunately, he's not doing the book and the publishing side, but
okay.
He did say he's going to put me in touch with someone who can help me out, and hopefully we'll connect again. But if not, that's okay. I'm going to be prepared in the next hopefully month to get in front of a publisher and move forward.
No, and that's perfect. And I'm just glad that Clint was able to at least help you in some avenue, and then you also have another publisher to help you as well. That's great. So now to get to your YouTube channel, why don't you tell everybody what that's about?
Yeah, fantastic. It's udude_investments, and it's I just started posting videos and content on there about 3 months ago, and my personal development journey and my self-help journey was tough, but I've got a lot of military experience as a non-commissioned officer and a leader of soldiers, and I want to express that in digital content to help everybody. I've got a great financial track record. I've been a trader, and I've been involved in the stock market for decades. I was an early investor at 15, 16 years old when my father led me on to some awesome stocks, and I dumped some money into them. The stock market's always been there for me as a bank, so to say. I can always run to it and pull a little money out. There was always some good investments when I was a kid. So I'm going to transition to finances so I can help people financially. But first, we're going to work on mindset and getting everybody prepared in the right mindset to have good personal development and hopefully become a self-helpaholic themselves. And then after that, I am prepared and ready to coach individually. I offer a lot of things on my YouTube channel that promotes personal development, self-help, and financial success.
That's awesome. I checked out some of your YouTube videos there, and it's great content. I know I had some some issues with it there, but we had talked over that, and now hopefully with our podcast now, we can transition you over to some actual video and voice for you.
Absolutely, yeah. That's ideally that's what I want to do. I want to get on camera. I want to do on camera interviews like this, so I can put myself out there and say, hey guys, if you need help, you need mindset, motivation, you need education. Do you just want to see somebody who's been through it and recovered. All you have to do is just lean over this way, and I can gladly teach you.
I love it. That's awesome.
Hell yeah, man.
Fuck yeah, buddy. I know you're busy tonight, and I'm glad and I appreciate that you're able to take the time out of your day to be able to do this podcast. So how about lastly, for those that might be struggling with their own challenges, what message of hope or advice would you like to offer them right now?
Absolutely. Okay. The hair on the back of my neck is standing up. The hair on my arms is standing up. I need you to just go forward. You got to put your left foot in front of the right. It's too easy to stop and fold and buckle. And I've always told people I ran into, you're going to have to apologize to me. It's just starting to rain, so it might get a little loud. Again, I'm in this beautiful Lamborghini, but the biggest thing that you need to do is put your left over your right. You got to take the hard right rather than the easy wrong.
Kind of like the road less traveled by, right?
You know, the road less traveled by, or just listening to that good conscience that we all know we should. When it's telling you don't do it, or it's telling you you shouldn't eat that, or it's telling you, you know what, you probably should go to the gym. We all are guilty of saying no, but you got to do the hard right. And that's where the work's done. When you put the work in, your whole life changes. Everything changes.
Oh, and you're absolutely right. You get out what you put into it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And anybody who's listening to this, who's going through hard times or struggling, you got help out there. You just have to turn to it and ask for it. We're all here to help you. I've been down and out. All right. It's a story that makes me a little emotional. I've got a bullet that sits on the lip of my sink, and it says 2016 on it. And it was after my first divorce, and I had it to the side of my head. And I'm not afraid to tell anybody. And I was prepared to end it and end my life right then and there. I was down and out, and alcohol had a big player in that. And once I was able to get past that and fight those demons and survive, hey, if I can do it, anybody else can.
You're goddamn right, brother. Sorry, I'm a little emotional now too, because unfortunately, I know what it's like to have that type of weapon pushed against your head. But that's that's a story for another day. But
yeah, listen, you know, I had that bad boy up against the side of my temple, and I was looking at empty bedrooms inside my house, and the first woman in my life, my baby's mother, was gone, and I was left in a mansion on the floor with a bottle of liquor and a gun upside my head. It's a true story, and I'd love to tell others more, and I'd love to talk to them about it, and just let you know that I don't care what I'm doing or where I'm at. If you call me, I'll answer my phone, and my door's always open for you.
Well, we definitely appreciate that, and I'll be sure to take you up on that offer. And Tim, same for you. If I can offer any type of thing, you just let me know. And like, I'm a phone call away from you now, right, buddy? You're in Florida. I'm a plane ride away, right? So
absolutely, brother. Hey, listen, we're all crazy. We just got to find the right kind of crazy that works for us to keep us on the right path, so we can all be successful together and make it to the finish line, grow old, and be healthy, wealthy, and happy.
Exactly. That's perfect. Well, on that note, let me let you go, get back to your event with the Lambo there, and you have yourself a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother, I can't thank you enough for this, and I look forward to doing a many more with you, and anything that I can do to help you, let me know. This has been an absolute pleasure, and anybody who's listening, if you need anything, my phone's always on.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Thank you so much.
Cheers, brother. Thank you, man.
Cheers. Bye now.
Bye.
And that was Iraq War veteran Tim Palmer, everybody. Now support Tim by checking out his YouTube channel. He's also available on Facebook and LinkedIn. That book release he talked about is set for September 2024. Keep an eye out for it. Blueprint, no E's, misspelled on purposely, like you just heard. You can also support Tim and other troops by donating or volunteering with the Wounded Warrior Project, the American Legion, and the PTSD Foundation of America. And on behalf of Red Script Studios, thank you for your service. This has been The Trauma That Binds and Overcoming the Front Lines, a segment of Living Vicariously. Production copyright 2024 by Tim Douglas, proprietor of Red Script Studios. For updates on studio productions, follow us on Facebook. If you have a story you would like to share, consider reaching out to the studio via email or WhatsApp. We'd love to connect. Until next time.